Got a sunburn to peel the daggers off your tongue. Young and dumb, I'm rotting like a bed sore. And a cold case that's never gonna be more than scratching at the walls while you're waiting for a bullet to come. All along I've been treading in the deep end. Throw my mirror in the cupboard for the weekend. Try and put together pieces while I'm dreaming, but nothing's adding up to a thing but a hole in the head.
An opportunity here to provide leadership, support, and a voice to the voiceless. The sacrifices that we made during our service do not end here. We carry on, we push forward, and we give hope and inspiration through love, community, and support. Stay free.
Rights and freedoms in this country are absolutely everything to me, because I personally know the sacrifice required in order to get them back once they're gone. So when my brothers and sisters call Stand 2, be sure I'll be there.
Legacy media will play their games, right? Like, this isn't about this or that. This is about freedom, period.
The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Brothers and sisters in uniform, whether you're a police officer, military, check your hearts. Look where we're going. Man, wake up. I beg you.
If the veterans can't stand up and get a message across to the government, I don't know who can. I don't know. But we're going to give it our best shot. And I think we have a chance to win this and do it. But we need your help. And we need you to come, and we need you to stand too. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk again soon.
Woke pirates, yes, they rob I'm sold out to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. My head was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. Got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. Got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs. It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs.
Hey, what's up, troops? Jeff Evely, the Magnanimous GenX'er Male. I'm back with you now on this 5th day of March 2024. Holy smokes, there's a lot going on out there. I have with us today Bethan Nodwell. I'm going to bring her in here in a minute after I go ahead and say good day to everybody here. Slabtown Gal, first one on the board, says triple slashy right back at you. And Messiah 854, nothing like a good podcast after 2 days straight of snow shuffling. We almost had an early spring here in Manitoba. Yeah, commiserations for that. We have, I think I read 30 to 40 millimeters of freezing rain headed my way right now. So good times, everybody. Gotta love these Canadian winters. And let's see, over on YouTube, Chris Freestone, first one on the board. How you doing, brother? Giving us the triple slashy. Cora says, hello, everyone from X, right on. And another one from X, good day, all Freedom Warriors. Lee Clark, lots of people on X here today. Says Canada, Canada, Canada. Right on, yeah. And we got Steve Steve Robitaille over on YouTube says F book is down worldwide. Yeah, I was just checking that right before I went live. Mine came back up there, so I hope everybody is back and running. It was a little weird there. Said, I had the wrong password, and I know that it's not the wrong password. But it looks like I'm back in on all my systems right now anyway. And Leanne from Facebook is saying, hey, Freedom family, watching from deep in the bush, Merrickville, Ontario. Merrickville is my favorite spot to go on my motorcycle from when I was in Ottawa, man. That is the one redeeming quality of Ontario, is it does have good motorcycle riding. And our most faithful of all watchers, Cindy, is here saying, good afternoon, Jeff. Hearts, seems the effery is over with the afternoon, friends. Yeah, I think you're talking about the Facebook outage there as well. And Stacy says, hooray, Bethan Nodwell. All right on. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and dive into this sucker here before I bring Bethan in. I don't want to leave her waiting too long backstage here, but I was going to go. Let me see now. I was looking for a quote today, and I just couldn't resist this one because Holly Doan was sharing this out. She's got an image here of the book, The Secret Mulrooney Tapes by Peter C. Newman. And she says, Prime Minister Brian Mulrooney, Ottawa is a sick city that runs on goddamn incest, and they're all married to one another. They're shacked up with one another. Their wives are on the payroll of the CBC. It's just awful. So, I think I couldn't resist that one, especially given current events and the situation that we're in here in the frozen communist shithole, as Joe Rogan would say it, that is Canada. And I had to go see this for myself, but apparently this is, in fact, a real quote, because here's the CBC. This is from September 14th, 2005. Random House Mulrooney book will be a bestseller. And here is a list of quotes that I thought was rather entertaining. On Ottawa, this place is sick. They're all married to one another. They're shacked up with one another. Their wives are on the payroll of the CBC. It's just awful. The goddamn incest here. Awesome. I didn't realize how based Brian Mulrooney was until I went back and read this. And here he is talking about Ottawa reporters. He calls them a phony bunch of bastards. And here's Pierre Trudeau. Trudeau's contribution was not to build Canada, but to destroy it, and I had to come in and save it. Wow. Based Mulrooney. Who knew? And speaking of based, this was going around. I think I might have picked this from Bethan's profile, actually. It says, this is a picture of shirtless convoy man, and he's having a smoke in front of the cops in riot gear here. Everybody's probably pretty familiar with the meme. And he's got the red eyes going on here, laser eyes. And it says, belligerent nationalism, the solution to communism. Yes, right on. And I saw Bethan tweeting about that recently too. There's been some developments on that one. He was just to court, and he's all squared away, I guess, as far as we can be. But without further ado, I will bring Bethan in now. How you doing today, girl? What's going on?
Hey, honey boo, how you doing?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. It's Tuesday, and already it seems like the news is overwhelming. But
like all hell is breaking loose, right? Can you hear me? Is it okay, or should I add my headphone? The audio's all right? Okay, we didn't test
you sound good.
Yeah, no, all hell's breaking loose. Like, this is going to be an illegal conversation very soon, right? We're not allowed to do
kidding.
We're talking. Can't do it. We're on house arrest.
No, we might get charged with a pre-thought crime.
Right? What?
Yeah.
Like, that's a Tom Cruise movie, right? Where they had people arrested for crimes they had yet to commit. I mean, what amazing ideas.
I think this is one of those Venn diagram situations, because I feel like, Minority Report is overlapping with 1984, because we got the thought crimes from 1984 and the pre-crimes from Minority Report. And now we have pre-thought crimes with Bill C-63, or, I lose track of the numbers. It's 63 now, right?
63. Yeah, 63. And I mean, I was just listening to, before I got on, I was just listening to a little blurb with Greg Wycliffe talking about it. And, he's really thoughtful and introspective. He's not just a pretty face. He's a very smart guy, and, just his concerns about what is coming to be. And this is now not the first time where I've talked to people who are getting that sense of dread that they had prior to the convoy, right? Yeah. Where, I thought for sure we were headed to quarantine camps. Like, I was pretty sure that's what we were going to be dealing with next. I'm like, did, my friend, Monique, she was locked in a quarantine camp nightmare in Australia. And so it's part of the Commonwealth. It's not that far away from the reality. Did they really build them? What do you know about those quarantine camps that they had?
Well, I just remember from one of the video teleconferences that got released there. Oh shoot, I think it was it Freeland that was talking about how they had and Patty Haidu did there was a video of her that got released from one of their Zoom calls. No, it was a public announcement, and she was saying that they built these quarantine camps, and there's going to be more in this region and more in that region. So I remember including the clip anyway.
Chambers. Monique was talking about, being locked in this room in Australia, and she was in quarantine, and they would, come to her door in hazmat suits, and it would be a forced PCR test, and you had to pretend you were okay. I'm okay. Otherwise, they'll lock you down longer. So even though, you're anticipating being tortured, you had to anticipate it with a smile on your face. Of course, you can ram this object up my nose. That's very dangerous, by the way. The PCR tests, I couldn't even believe it when it was happening. Those are extremely dangerous tests. Your that nasal cavity in there is very delicate, very vulnerable. How many videos did we see of children injured, bleeding from the eyes, bleeding from the nose because of nurses or health practitioners who just rammed it up there? And I can still remember the screams from the hospital when we were doing that to kids. And adding on to the list of lies, that was a lie. The PCR test was all a lie, and it involved torturing people. And, that's why I feel this steely resolve in myself, be it masks on children, PCR tests, vaccine injury. No, we are going to the end of this. We are following this through to our final days. We were born for a time such as this. I'm not forgetting about it. I'm not going home. I'm not giving up.
Nope.
No, we'll do it.
Amnesty.
Yeah. No amnesty, right? Exactly. And I don't care if we just have a bag of rice left. We're doing this. We're doing this to the very end, and we want to see arrests. I even noticed that I think someone was tweeting about Jody Wilson-Raybould and what a hero she is and all that kind of thing. And I have no qualms with Jody Wilson-Raybould, and I appreciate she did what she did during the SNC-Lavalin drama. But she kind of disappeared after that. She has been very little of an asset or an ally to the movement in any way. And then I was told, no, she's got legal circumstances, and that's why she can't speak out. But I'm just like, we all have legal circumstances, don't we? Jeremy McKenzie has legal circumstances, and look at his mouth.
No kidding.
Right.
Yeah, and holy smokes! Hopefully that one takes a turn here soon. I was tracking that one pretty closely. I was down.
You were tracking his court case, eh? Yeah.
And that was something else, man. I swear. Strang perjured himself like within 10 seconds of taking the oath. That's what I saw anyway. The first thing out of his mouth was, but you haven't told me your name. I don't know who you are. And that was to Morgan May. I was like, Morgan Uptill. And so I was like, yeah, like the heck he doesn't know who she is. So first thing out of his mouth. But Jody, the Jody Wilson-Raybould thing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she's just had enough. She's tapped out, I guess. She got driven out or something like that. But I understand what you're saying. It's like we got to keep the pressure on. Like we got some wins racking up so far this year. And you were just talking about the PCR test, but I just for anybody who doesn't understand, you were a nurse in your previous life, weren't you?
Yeah, and that does feel like a lifetime ago. Somebody, because we get these ups and downs of being in this movement and, being very involved in this movement of going like, what are we doing? And like, is this an exercise in futility? Like sometimes it feels like you're winning and sometimes you're just feeling like you're losing the whole time. But yeah, like 3 years ago, if somebody had told me as I was pushing a med cart down a hallway and seeing my patients that in 3 years from now, you're going to be traveling around the world, you're going to be in Washington, you're going to be doing all these things, and I'd be like, "Are you sure?" Because right now I'm opening packages of medications and giving it to heart patients, right? And
Right.
or people with diabetes or whatever their conditions were. So my personal world has completely shifted 180 degrees. I don't recognize the life that I'm living now, because I was living a very small little country life in a small town hospital, dealing with small town gossipy nurses. Like that was my biggest problem, was nurses gossiping. And now, like we're taking on Klaus Schwab and George Soros. I wish I just had to deal with gossipy nurses. That would be easy
Uh,
compared to what we're
yeah,
dealing with now.
no kidding. And speaking of you've been working with Freedom Fighters Canada, right?
Yeah. So right after the convoy, there was a guy there um, who is a pipe fitter from Alberta named Jeremy O'Sullivan. Drew nicknamed him Jeromey because his name's spelt Jerome, but it's pronounced Jeremy.
Okay.
And we started that organization kind of together, this group, and we just kept coming back to the hill. We were sort of living around there, and there were a lot of people from Alberta who weren't ready to leave. And so we just kept on going, and we were harassed by Rainbow Karen and Purse Nuggets, people who've now become kind of international stars within the Antifa movement. Like we were
Yeah.
dealing with them every weekend. And then we found out a bit more about what Purse Nuggets was up to in her private time. And we ended up finding some, thanks to some people we know, like we found some dirt on her. And so she's far less threatening now. And, for those who want to go look it up, you go look it up yourself. But yeah, she's a lot less threatening than she was in those initial days. Yeah. We were afraid of the
Fair
girl in
enough.
the
Yeah, she's a regular feature on this program too, because you can't help it. I mean,
Oh,
everything Chris
nuts.
Stacy's every
I know.
maybe third or fourth video that Chris Stacy's got up or something, it's either like you said, Rainbow Karen or Purse Nuggets.
I know. And like that's basically the best that they have. Like you went to Afghanistan, you fought against the Taliban, and like this is who we get now. This is the Taliban, right? So maybe it's not as scary as a jihadi, maybe. So I'm glad you're on our
Yeah.
team. Anyways, you guys
It's not
fought
like they're going to behead us. I mean, we can safely assume that. It's Canada.
No, but they're
so
getting pretty confident with those sonic whistles, aren't they? Just blasting them in people's faces.
yeah,
We were at I think I saw you there. We were at a Save Canada rally in front of a school outside of Toronto, in the Toronto area. And I think that's where Nick got punched and, had the bloody nose or the cut above his eye, right? Remember that shot? And they were using electronic whistles there too. So it's interesting how casual and familiar they've become with using these kinds of weapons. And they even used it on like, what's a Wild Bill, right? Who's a senior veteran and, a senior citizen, right? With his veteran vests and that kind of thing. And they were putting it in Grandpa's face. It was disgusting. It was really, really gross.
Bill, he got stabbed with an umbrella too. Well,
like why not? Why not stab senior citizens? They have, they have no moral grounds, and no matter what, they hate us. And so if they, like, I think that this is clear. When they call you a Nazi, that means game on. Everything is acceptable in what they do to you. So whether they punch you in the face and cause a bloody nose, or if they, stab a senior citizen with an umbrella, well, you're Nazis. So it's fair game. So that label is very insidious and very dangerous. And I don't appreciate it. But I've been called it now so many times, I'm kind of over it. But
it has kind of lost all meaning, and it's obvious projection as well. Like the
Right.
fascists are the one calling us Nazis. So
Right. Yeah, like,
um,
"Go home, fascists," and it's like, "Who are you talking to? I live here. This is my school board." I've dealt with Rainbow Karen a lot, just dealing with these counter protesters, if we wanna talk about anti-hate or Antifa. There's it's been a long journey now, and we've dealt with these people in almost every single event, and so whatever tack we take, whatever position we take, they take the opposite. So whether, we are, supportive of the convoy and we're against mandates, well, they are against us. And whether we are, with Nilly Kaplan-Mirth, that crazy doctor who is a school board trustee for the Ontario districts or the Ottawa district school board, she was nuts. And she'd show up with yellow rubber gloves and like 3 masks. And she wanted to bring back mask mandates into the elementary schools. And we showed up to say, no, that's not happening. But of course, Rainbow Karen was there with her daughter and, just screaming in our faces. And, and like, there's no talking. It's almost a performance. I watch her go and I'm like, she's acting. Like, this isn't actually real. And now she's on, the Palestinian Israel conflict, and she's right there. She's got her Hamas, scarves on, and I'm just like, man, like, is there an issue that you aren't protesting these days, Karen? And you clearly don't have anything else to do, but it doesn't matter. She just takes the opposite to us.
And I think, let me see. So what we're talking about is
Everything.
this is the crazy thing. It's like they can basically assault people and almost never get arrested. She got arrested just
recently. Yeah.
Like a couple of weeks ago. There, it was during the anniversary of the convoy. She finally got arrested at the end of the weekend. And anyway, that was good to see. But it's always a scene with this woman. Check it out.
Right.
Those divisions were on display.
Hey, come here.
A counter protest
It's just hit her with a microphone. Yeah.
With a member of the Freedom Convoy.
A big bunch of whiny babies who threw a mega tantrum last year in our city.
There was a slow-mo for those of you just listening, hitting another woman with a megaphone.
Okay, you're under arrest. No, I'm not fucking off. You're getting off of here. Hey, come on. Wait. Get her out. Get her out of here. She's stealing people's stuff. She's the worst person on earth. Hey, don't push me. Okay, but you don't need to push me. Stop! It's enough! What the fuck is this? It's enough! I need your help! Okay, you stay away. Need your help! She won't stop.
Well, and then PPA come to get her. But it's not hard to tell who the good guys are here. What do you think, Bethan?
I mean, it's just like, I love seeing like all these familiar faces. Like Matthew is like, she is the worst person in the world, and it's kind of true. And then tinfoil hat man doing a citizen's arrest at this point. It's like, fine, if the cops aren't going to do anything, and the Police Protective Service of Parliament Hill aren't going to do anything, I guess we've got this, and we're about to do a citizen's arrest. So like, it's highly entertaining. I would never watch another television show again, not when we have like Chris Dacey going out there and getting us material. It's like the best TV show ever.
Yeah, this is better than any reality TV, really. Never a dull moment. And that's not the slightest bit of an exaggeration. And Chris was speaking to the press corps at the opening of the anniversary of the convoy there.
That's right.
That was incredible. Yeah. So another guy who's really getting some traction.
Yeah, Daisy's a changed man. Like we're all changed in the past 2 years. Like who we were in January 2022 I feel that I'm a very different person in January 2024. I'm a lot more fearless, but Chris Stacy, you know, the amount of development that he has made. Yeah, Daisy rocks 100%. You know, how he filmed before and now how he films now, sort of ambushing Trudeau. He's getting really good and he's calming his voice down. It's not as high, sort of like, oh, Mr. Trudeau, you know, he's very calm. And now he has a series set of questions he puts on repeat. Like, I'm so proud of him. In what he has done and what he's become. He's an absolute animal. Like he'll go out there, rain or shine, doesn't matter. And he's like in the thick of it. And he's much calmer with the police now too. Yeah, I really respect everything he has done and the man he's kind of evolved into over the past 2 years. Got nothing bad to say about that man ever. I love him. Go,
He's
Chris.
awesome. He's definitely our favorite muckraker.
Yeah.
I got to do a catch up with Chris. Actually, it's been a couple of weeks. He's usually in for Muckraker Monday, but you know, schedules don't always permit. Anyway, we got to do a catch up with Chris, and I guess he would be another one who gets called a Nazi by these people.
Oh, all the time.
Far
I mean,
right, and
I think. You know, if we get into it, but you know, up here, you can sort of see if I tilt my camera, you can see this beautiful lady right here, Miss Christine Anderson. And that was, yeah. Aw. So we've done a whole series of tours after the convoy. You know, Christine Anderson was one of the few and only, other than Donald Trump, perhaps, political figures that stood up for us and stood up for us in a very public way. And when she turned on Prime Minister Trudeau in the European Parliament and gave this legendary speech of "Please spare us your presence," I talked to two of my friends, Judy Stinson and Stacey Cotter, and I'm like, we have to go get her. Let's go hunt her down. And hunt her down we did. We didn't know really what we were doing. We had one phone number, one contact, but we did fly over to Europe and we went and met her in Strasbourg and in Brussels and told her that Canada wants you. We actually really love you. And it's crazy that we had to go over the Atlantic Ocean to find a politician who would defend us. It's insane. Because out of all the 338 that we had, they were nothing but, you know, charlatans and imposters.
So that's how you got started with the so this was I have for those of you just listening, I have Bethan's tweet up here about this tour, but so this is the Make It Your Business tour brought to Canada, and that
was number 2. Yeah, that was number 2.
Okay.
The first one was it was kind of inspired from like a Joan Jett like imagery from one of her albums, and it was what would Christine Anderson do. And that was our first tour. And it was basically a year ago in February. And we went across the country. We did Alberta. We did a bunch of stops in Ontario. And we did a stop in Quebec, which was like a complete Quebec is like it's the country unto itself. And we had all of our problems, all happened in Quebec. But we did that first tour and we were exhausted, but it was amazing. And we saw how loved she was, you know, by so many European Canadians who have, you know, been following her or living in Canada and so grateful to her. So then we went back to Brussels and we started talking to other European MEPs, members of European Parliament. And we're like, why don't you guys come over too? With their scheduling and stuff, it didn't work out entirely, but we ended up booking a second tour, you know, and we booked some venues. And that's when we brought on Eva Vlaardingerbroek, the beautiful, like the red-pilled, the based Eva. And and she joined us. And like, I hear a lot of people cutting her slagging her online, but if you often when you get to know these people as people, that's when you can really make a judgment. We're very judgy on the internet, right? Very judgy. And everyone's, you know, an armchair quarterback, and they know what they would have done and how they should have done it. But she's 27, and you have to keep that in mind. And getting really famous. And I think it's hard for young people like Josh Alexander, like the young people within this movement who get elevated and become super famous. Best statement ever. Spare us your presence. Yes. Please spare us. We made t-shirts. Please spare us your presence. Awesome. T-shirts. Yeah. Although it needs to say Justin Trudeau. What do we got?
Like this is Chris Stacey. We were just talking about Chris Stacey, and he posted this picture.
Yeah.
A video, and this is from the arrival of Christine Anderson and Eva Vlaardingerbroek. And anyway, very well received.
Okay, we've got a luggage vehicle.
He has so much luggage. Oh my God.
I miss it. Yeah. Traveling light, I see.
There's more suitcases than there are women.
That's all right, man. I love it. I love it.
So good.
So I moved continents my entire life. I had 2 suitcases. So I got on holiday for like 3 days.
Unbelievable.
So you're just kind of like everywhere where the action is, huh?
Yeah, no, it's true. I seem to have like, I'm a moth to flame, right? I'm like, oh, is there trouble? Well, then let's do it. But that was amazing. And that's, I believe that was Harold Jonkers and his brother. And they did a convoy with us on the first tour, and they came to pick us up at the airport. And thank God they came with an F-150, because we had merch in our suitcases. Like, I've never been a light packer, and that's why I was not cut out for the military, because you guys have like 2 pairs of socks and 1 pair of underwear, and then you go and like live in, you know, a forward operating base for, you know, 6 months. I wouldn't survive, and you guys would have kicked me out and sent me to the Taliban before it was all done. Like, when it comes to these things, you need sort of, okay, you're traveling clothes, but you have events, and you have formal events, and you have like ball gown events, and you have shoes, and you have makeup, and you have hair products. And I just can't seem to get around downsizing my luggage. Like, I watch these videos of Instagram girls who like, I've got 16 outfits and 4, you know, with 4 pairs of clothes. And I'm like, I can't do it. and neither can Christine. Christine travels heavy too. So she's well organized, and like her clothes are like vacuum sealed, but it's heavy. Those suitcases will break your back. It's so stupid, but it's what we do.
I was Air Force, so we had room for lots of luggage. Right. May have had more than 1 pair of underwear anyway.
Right. Okay. You brought 2. That's big of you. Yeah. Great. Yeah. But Army guys are like that. Tight, compact, like the less weight, the better. You got to carry your water no matter what. And water is heavy. So you bring less clothes, I suppose.
Yeah. Definitely, if you're going to be carrying them, if you're going to carry like a rucksack or something like that, then pack light, as light as you can. And you're still busy. Like you have a couple of events coming up. Here's one in Toronto.
Like, look at that. So International Women's Day. This is definitely Stacey Cotter's baby that she's birthing on Friday. But we have
congratulations.
Congratulations. It's her next baby. Oh my gosh. But these women, Linda Blade. Okay, I have her book. Linda Blade is a force to be reckoned with in this country. She's an Olympic coach. And believe it or not, she used to coach Jamie Saleh. That's how small this world is, right? Long before any of this was a thing, she was Jamie Saleh's coach. But yeah, I know. And she coaches at an Olympic level. And she's been doing a lot of behind the scenes policy advising regarding this trans activism and this trans agenda. So her book is called Unsporting: How Trans Activism and Science Denial Are Destroying Sport. So there's that. And within that group, you can see a beautiful girl named April Hutchinson. You see her with her beautiful white teeth. And so she's a power lifter. She's a power lifter. And she, you know, and she's a girl power lifter. And like, you know, she would probably beat us both up very well. But she has been fighting and resisting men competing against her in her divisions, right? Because they will steal those medals from her, you know. And why we're having a conversation about 40% more upper body strength, you know, which is what men are blessed with. I was talking with some people and they're saying, like, upper body strength, men, you have 40% more, you're leaving us in the dust. When it comes to squats and lower body strength, relatively speaking, we're actually a lot more paired off. So, you know, those ladies with thick thighs and that kind of thing, they're actually quite strong. But, you know, sort of waist up, like we're not even in the same universe. And so the fact that men who are mediocre athletes in their own male divisions are coming in and, you know, growing out their hair, shaving off their mustache and going like, I'm a girl power lifter and I want the gold medal. Like this is becoming an insidious problem. And so, yes, she has received all sorts of heat for that. You might know Amy Ham in there as well. She's a nurse. High five, nurses. And I think she's been taken to one of those human rights tribunal kangaroo courts in BC. And I don't know all the details, but ultimately she told a biological man that he would not be able to get pregnant, you know, something along those lines. And, you know, now he's taking her to court for crimes against humanity. And, and so, and like, yeah, he's taking her to court and her license is suspended until it's resolved and this kind of thing. And she's a single mom. And she's just, you're not allowed to say, you know, up is up and down is down anymore with these people. They're like, no, up is down and down is up. And it depends on the perspective you're looking through. And it doesn't make any sense in medicine when we're talking to people about who can get pregnant and who cannot. Like we're in an insane asylum being run by the inmates. That's for sure.
She's giving a clinical assessment too. That's what you should expect. I would expect her to be clinical about it.
Right. Right. And I mean, and it's like, come on, let's just keep things simple here. But, you know, they're dragging these politics, these trans politics into everything, including into doctors' offices and into your, you know, when your nurse is just there kind of to do blood draws and, you know, take your blood pressure. You know, they're not really there as medical advisors. That's what the doctor does. But we explain what the doctor, a big part of our job as nurses is to explain what you've just been told. The doctor comes in, goes, ba, 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 ba. The patient's like, what was that? And then the nurse kind of works with them afterwards and going, this is what this means. And this is what your options are. And you want to give people the best information that you can so that they can make an informed choice. All of that was thrown out of the window 3 years ago. So informed consent got thrown out of the window, informed choice thrown out of the window. All of that was destroyed, but it what it used to be. And I think she's kind of a traditional nurse that way. Well, you know, we used to tell people what was up. You know, if you have a tumor, we're not pretending, no, it could be a rock. Like, no, you got a tumor. And, you know, these are your options. You can, you know, cut it out, let it fester. You could treat it with chemo. You've got some options and you give them the best information. And usually the decisions aren't that great. You know, this has this consequence, this is this consequence, and this has this risk, but you present it to them and then they are empowered to make the choice. No, I'd rather cut it out, or no, I'd rather treat it with chemo, or no, I think I'd rather, you know, treat it with sticks and berries and see what happens. But it's all their choice.
Yeah.
I don't recommend sticks and berries, by the way. Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean it's bizarro land. The lunatics are running the asylum here.
Yeah.
And I met Amy at the Free Speech and Medicine conference there last year in Bedeck. And I think she also took a bunch of heat just for putting up a billboard that said, "I heart J.K. Rowling." Do you remember
Right?
that?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, these people like, and I think with the trans activist movement, they target people, right? And they're trying to make an example out of Amy. They're bullying her. Apparently the trans movement's all about preventing suicide and preventing bullying. That's why every school in the country is littered in rainbow flags and LGBTQ propaganda. But it's all about, protecting bullying. But when they think that you're white, straight, conservative, Christian, or something like that, oh, it's on, because we're Nazis, and you're allowed to do whatever you want to Nazis. So I guess this Nazi family is kind of getting bigger and larger. And everyone is at this point, but yeah, it's just madness. So this event in Toronto, I think there are still some tickets left. And yeah, I'll be there for sure. I'll be there with the ladies, and I can't wait to meet some of these women and seeing Linda Blade again. Like, I love her. Everybody needs a coach. Like, everybody needs a Linda in their life.
Yeah, and if you want a little more Linda in your life there, fellas, you can get to trinityproductions.ca. Get yourself a ticket for this event. It's the reality-based
Yeah, if you want a little more Linda in your life. So yeah, no, that's like an event. So that's this Friday. But I'm just sort of like, I was watching the video, like the emancipation song there.
Redemption song, yeah.
Redemption song, exactly. But they say emancipate yourself from mental slavery, right? And I was seeing like images from Rolling Thunder, and I was just thinking, like, how far we go back, Jeff? Like, it does feel like Rolling Thunder was an eternity ago. James Top was an eternity ago.
I know.
But
at the same time, it's like it went fast. It seems like when I stop and think about it, it does seem like it was an eternity ago. But the last 4 years, I keep having to look down at the start of every episode. Like, what year is it? Oh, 2024. Right.
Right.
At the same time, it's like the time is compressed in the one sense, but in the other, like the events themselves seem like they were a lifetime ago. It's weird.
Yeah, we've done so many things, where Rolling Thunder, and just seeing how hysterical the city of Ottawa became and how hysterical the police became with the thought that motorcycles were going to be coming. And, they had visions that we were going to convoy and stay. And of course, there were murmurings of some people who were like, yeah, I think we're going to camp out on Parliament Hill and stay until it's over. It's like, So, of course there's always people who want to stay, and they'll no, we'll just live here, make Parliament Hill a tent city. But, we actually meant no harm, and we were not planning on staying. And, I think Neil tried really hard for that event. And I think it was good for like what you guys did, the V4F team, what you guys did that day was, the sun was on her face, and it was absolutely beautiful, right? Like, I loved that ceremony. It's actually one of the highlights for me over the past 2 years, was that ceremony. It was really, really beautiful. And and then James Top, like, I nearly started crying. Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. I had friends, I don't know where it was, but I had friends who walked like the last 25 kilometers with him. And like, everybody was dying. Their feet were blistered. Like, each pack of people had a lead of army guys, and they're yelling at them. And they're like, why are they yelling at us? Like, we're just civilians. They're like, let's go. And they're like, we're just trying to march. It was pretty hardcore. But that was an incredible event too. And it's like, every time it's a reunion, and every time it fills up our cup, because we get so isolated, depleted, and drained that even though these events, that even like a Canadian Tire parking lot event, it might seem insignificant, but it's about filling our cups up again and finding that group solidarity. I know people say convoys are useless, but actually there's nothing I love more than a convoy. I love a convoy. It's such a powerful feeling. Yeah.
So here's Bethan. She's saying, thank a trucker anniversary event, January 27th. So you guys did an event for that, basically?
Yeah, it's Niagara 10-4, best group going. The fact that it's a group that's still standing, you know, after the past couple of years, a lot of organizations and groups have self-immolated or exploded. But Niagara 10-4, these ladies, they just did like a flag waving event. They do it every Friday or almost every Friday. They go to the same bridge and, you know, and then they make hot chocolate and they, you know, they bring some food or what have you. And they just make it a community event. And it was the 2-year anniversary because at that location where they were at, it was a pivotal location prior to the truckers entering Ottawa. So they want to, you know, just remember that. And I still believe that the truckers saved my life. And I'm a stand for that. So I see Chris Barber or I see Harold Jonker or, you know, even friggin' Norman Blanchfield. And I'm like, those guys saved my life. I owe them. I know. And it's
I think we'd still be locked down if it weren't for the truckers. And it's probably not an exaggeration to say that, you know, they saved our lives because we were headed for the gulags, man.
That's how it felt. And so the fact that people want to celebrate the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary, you know, and, you know, the people that can criticize it or belittle it, I believe that we actually need to celebrate it and we need to remember and we need to go back and thank a trucker for what they did for us. Because some of them are still being persecuted. Chris Barber is still going through lawfare. Pat King, you know, his bank accounts are still frozen, you know, and
oh my God,
you know, he has to use like a credit union. Oh, Barber, look, he's such a giant compared to all of us midgets. He's so huge. And yeah, and he's carrying the weight of all of that on his shoulders and doing the fundraising and to try and pay for legal fees. I have nothing bad to say about that man. He's human and he might have faults, but the only fault I see is he only wears plaid. That's it. That's all I've got, you know?
Unforgivable.
Unforgivable. It's his best color. The best color is plaid. But I love him so much. And Tamara too. And I think Tamara has political aspirations and it's like, good for you. Go get him. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
Critics are going to criticize her for whatever. I don't care. Tamara Litch made a difference and she spent time in jail for making a difference. And so if she wants to run as local mayor or, you know, municipally, provincially, federally, whatever she wants to do, go for it. She's paid a price for that. Whatever Pat King wants to do, I support him. I went to his rodeo last summer too, and that was like absolutely wild outside of Calgary. I think it was in Red Deer or something, and it was an amazing fundraiser weekend. They did a really great job, and you know we got to see some bucking broncos, and you know that's cool. And girls doing the barrel racing. And the girls are so cool, like their hair is flying, and maybe like they got their tight jeans and like their cowboy hats. They're amazing. I loved it. So yeah, it's great.
And so Barber, he's back in court soon, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he starts again next week. Actually, I know that we like another event we're working on because we don't stop working on events is an event in the Netherlands with Christine Anderson. Again, the Dutch farmers, because of the Canadian truckers, they were an inspiration to the Dutch farmers. And that's what kicked off the Dutch farmers. And so when we went to Europe to go see Christine Anderson, in Strasbourg and Brussels. Well, Brussels is 2 hours away from Amsterdam by train. So we got over to Amsterdam and we went and met some of the Dutch truckers. And you might remember, I did a flag exchange with the Dutch veterans because they were due, and I did it with Andrew on FaceTime, with Drew McGilvery on FaceTime. And like, but he gave us a bunch of coins and we did a flag exchange, and the Dutch veterans were holding the line and taking all the pepper spray and all the batons on behalf of the Dutch farmers. And sustaining a lot of injuries, but they were being that front line, very much like you guys did for us when the police crackdown happened. A lot of similarities. And we have this amazing history between Canada and Holland, right? And yeah, and like, because it's funny, when the Dutch heard that, Canadians were putting on this event, they're like, what do Canadians will have to do with the Dutch? And I'm like, what do we have to do with the Dutch? May I go back 80 years and let's have that conversation. Have you seen Ottawa in the springtime? Because it's like tulip fever, right? And it's all because you guys send us your tulips. Because, we helped you back then. We have an ancient and strong relationship with Holland. And we have Dutch farmers all over Canada and all over the United States. If it weren't for the Dutch farmers in North America and Europe, we'd all be starving. We'd just all be eating Bill Gates bugs and, fake meat. So,
pretty pro-Dutch.
Yeah, pro-Dutch all the way. So we're doing that, and we're doing that with Christine and this beautiful man named Matthias Desmet. Have you guys heard of him? The Psychology of Totalitarianism.
Yeah, I think I've seen him speak somewhere before.
Yeah, and he's absolutely brilliant. So he's the one who came up with the term, now I'm drawing a blank. What's the term, chat? You know what term he came up with? Oh gosh. Okay, if you look him up, Matthias Desmet came up with the term of I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Psychosis.
Mass formation psychosis.
Thank you. Mass formation psychosis. I was like, controlled something. Mass formation psychosis. Right. So how we all become kind of drones. It's safe and effective. And so we can align into mass formation very easily. He is currently working on another. He will be talking about another book. But this event in the future, we have a psychologist, a biologist, a journalist, a farmer, and, the High Queen, Christine. And we're going to be talking about the future, and this is a big thing that V4F actually focuses on, is the future, right? Your forward operating base farming and food sustainability and creating your own networks. To be able to, even if they turned off the power tomorrow, we would be able to at least feed the community that we have. So we are definitely looking at ways of the future. And I do think that, there are some people out there who are talking about creating a community outside of this matrix that we're living in, and we'll have our own economy and we'll have our own everything. So these are ideas.
Parallel economy.
And parallel economy. That's right. So we're talking about ideas for the future, and we do have a very intelligent think tank of people around the world. We were in Washington. There's lots of brilliant people who are thinking about these things. And so for me as a connector, it's just trying to bring people together and go, okay, share your ideas. Okay, come here. Share your ideas. And maybe somehow, some way, it's going to be something that Matthias says or something that Christine says that's going to hit an audience member in the head. And that idea is going to be the difference maker wherever they live. So that's what we're looking to do. I want to join the parallel economy. Yeah, no kidding. Like, are we going to trade potatoes, or what are we going to do? Grandma's jewelry.
Yeah, it really does seem to be the case. Like, they can basically cancel us from any any section of the economy right now, and they're locking up people's bank accounts and the whole shebang. So yeah, we got to jump ship and start building our own systems, right?
Yeah. And, after the convoy, one thing that probably we didn't talk about enough, we talked about what they did with the major 5 banks and what they did to make an example out of certain protesters. Like with Danny Bulford and Piper Bulford, they were just making an example out of them because there was really nothing that Danny and Piper had done. What they're doing to Pat King, who is kind of one of the more extreme dissidents, is they're making a very strong example about him. What they did to Mackenzie, make an example out of him. It's just in order to put some fear in our hearts that like they could do that to me. The Coots 4, wow. Make an example out of them. And so it puts a fear into everybody that I better not make another move because they will do that to me, if not worse. But it's actually the time when we need to activate more, right?
Yeah, we got to keep that pressure up. I mean, it seems like ever since the federal court ruled the Emergency Measures Act invocation ultra vires that we've just been kind of snacking up one win after another. I saw the Nova Scotia government calling the unvaccinated healthcare workers back to work. I'm going to be talking with Chet Chisholm about that tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
The broader view on it, I guess.
Right.
The current state of affairs, collapse, that is, of the healthcare system. I mean, my mask fine got thrown out, and it seems like the momentum is kind of turning at least a little bit, and if anything, the stand is starting to show some pretty big cracks, so we got to keep the pressure up right now.
Yeah, I think that we're getting a lot of wins in Ontario, maybe the Maritimes and the West, but Quebec is holding firm to the fines that they gave people. There's François Amelagas. He was he came to Canada. He's kind of one of these like immigrants we really do want. And he came as a cégep math professor. He was teaching mathematics. And I think he's from Benin. And he'll probably kill me when I get like his country of origin wrong. I apologize. But he came to Canada, and then he started noticing this communist creep. And then with the COVID lockdowns, he was kind of leading the charge in Quebec in a lot of ways. And it was again, we were dealing with stuff like masking. They were protesting masks, and they arrested him and they incarcerated him for, I think, being at this protest and posing a threat to Monsieur Legault, the premier of Quebec. They found him threatening, and they put him in prison for 4 months for participating in an anti-mask protest that threatened the, François Legault's panties, and it made him all nervous, even though he's got, he's surrounded by men with guns, but, he was really afraid of this, Black math professor. And so during the convoy, Amelagas was in jail. And so he missed the entire convoy because he was incarcerated at the time. But he was one of the first to be, brought out in the spring. Yeah, 4 months. 4 months. And crazy. I think, for like a mask protest. So for some people, especially in Quebec, justice for people like him, it's going to be a longer road, even longer than King's or Mackenzie's. And he's unknown in the English community, but he's a fireball and I love him. And I think Viva interviewed him too.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, Viva, like, thank God for Viva, right? He's done such good work for us. I love him so much.
100%. Yeah, and he's down in Florida there. I used to live in Florida, so I can appreciate, the freedom. It's the freest state in the union.
Yeah, are you jealous?
A little bit, yeah.
What would be the point that we need to get to where you, Jeff Evely, would decide to leave the country?
I don't know. I don't know if there is a point. It would have to be a pretty clear and convincing loss on our side. I don't think we're there yet. But I really, we got to hold this ground. The only thing that's been stemming the tide of global tyranny since the Industrial Revolution is the United States and the fat falls. And I think we're pretty much doomed. But I just kind of feel like it's my duty, I guess, to stand on guard for thee. And this is ground that we shouldn't cede. So, we'll stay and fight it out to the end, I guess. It's kind of, we can't just, there's nowhere to retreat to anyway. Like, look at what's happening in the United States. They have all the same problems that we have here. So, and theirs, I find it's more extreme. They're more polarized, but we're further to the left, if that makes sense. So their coots for are like several hundred people who've been in, since 2020. Yeah.
Did you go to the J6er? So Jeff and I went down to Washington to CPAC, and there were tons of adventures. It was really nice that we had our Canadian contingent, our Canadian family down there.
It was really
I always felt like we would meet in the hotel lobby and like, okay, everybody regroup. All right, okay, you're going back. Who did you meet? Blah blah blah. So we were out there networking, palm pressing, going, hi, we're from SOS Canada. Help us.
Yeah.
And we're dying over here. But so we would go. But what were your thoughts? The U.S. is a mess too. Yes.
In terms, CPAC I thought was incredible. I mean, there were just so many, big names strolling around and chatting, and we got to, like you say, pump the flesh with all of them and kind of chat it up a little bit. And it was pretty casual. I mean, until it was time for like Trump Day, then all of a sudden it was like shit got real.
I know, and they were trying to take my coffee mug, through security. It was the only time we had to go through the metal detectors and stuff like that. And they're like, you can't have this. I'm like, but it's empty. Like we're at an airport, but it's empty. And they're like, no cups. I guess they thought I might throw my mug at Trump. So it was a weapon or something. So I had to go hide my mug behind a poster kind of in the lobby. I'm like, you're not taking it. But yeah, I thought that was, it was incredible. And like, I think a lot of criticism of the conservative movement is that there are a lot of fakes within the movement, whether they call it big con Inc. or that kind of thing. And I do find one of the most incredible things about who we are as a Canadian freedom movement is that like we have pretty strong bullshit detectors too. I did meet fakes. I did meet people who are very famous in the conservative Republican circles. And, and Stacey and I would often go, did you see that? Like he smiled with his mouth, but not with his eyes, and you could really tell that they're like, oh yeah, have your people call my people. I'm like, you're liars. But, but every now and then you would Maple MAGA. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, baby. Every now and then you would meet somebody who was authentic and like really was hearing you. My most authentic person, and I want to know what it is that he has, was Eric Prince from Blackwater. That man, the way he talked to me, and look, I'm a nobody. I'm a Canadian in like a big giant pond of huge fish. And there was a way where he shook my hand, said my name, and listened. And I absolutely felt heard. I don't know what that is that, I'm dealing with a billionaire here, right? But he had this je ne sais quoi that made you feel, I think they said that about Bill Clinton. Like he used to do that, even though you don't want to be in the presence of Bill Clinton anymore. That's probably not where you want to be. But he had this particular way of making that individual feel heard and feel important. And I had that moment with Eric Prince. And he's working on a neat project too with kind of these cyber phones or whatever they are. They're phones that are outside of the grid, unhackable phones or whatever. He's working on a big project.
Yeah, it's another one of those well, I mean, not another one. This is a kind of a fairly new phenomenon on the market where people are getting these secure phones. Like basically, a lot of them I think are Google Pixels, and they've been de-Googleized, and there's encryption to protect your data and stuff like that. So it seems like maybe that's going to be the next big market. And you have a guy from a security background like that too, you know, putting his own brand out there. So it could be big. I think he's doing pretty well with it, actually.
Yeah, you know, and he doesn't seem, you know, like, because this guy, like, what he owns, Blackwater, is what, for people who might not know, it's like Blackwater has like helicopters and munitions and, you know, tanks, jeeps, like armored personnel carriers, whatever you're looking for. And if you're in Iraq and you're like, okay, we've lost some equipment, call Blackwater, and they'll show up with, you know, planes, trains, and men to drive it. So it's quite a business that he has, and he doesn't come across as a hardened JTF2 guy, right? He comes off as actually very soft-hearted. That was my impression. Maybe I'm wrong, but I
find that's pretty common with kind of the elite forces guys, that it seems like they're all just sort of cool as cucumbers.
Right.
Nothing phases them. They're just kind of pretty mellow people for the most part. So,
well, and that's why they're gray men, right? Because they don't kind of look like a big beefcake, you know. But when we're talking about JTF2, remember that protest that made Rainbow Karen very famous? It was a Save Canada protest, and they were there was that JTF2 guy behind her. Now, I didn't really notice him at first, and he already had that innate natural gray man. He was wearing kind of Bahama shorts and a white t-shirt, but he was very much a blend. He was on the wrong side. What are you doing over there? I don't know why he's pushing so hard for, you know, Team Rainbow, unless he was put there on a job, you know. Was that his job, to try and agitate us and maybe to create a fight? I don't really know what he was doing there. Or are those actually his authentic politics? And you just have some members of
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's just my best guess. But I think he probably, maybe he even just happened to be in the area, but those would be his politics. Like, he seemed like he was pretty adamant, you know, kind of mocking the protesters who were there, along with, you know, the other Trantifa types in the shots. So, but he got made almost right away, and he was currently serving at the time too. So it's all, it's not a good look. But they're pretty woke. The military has gone pretty woke.
Even at that elite level, I find that that's just so hard to believe, because you need alphas to be alphas at that level, right? You can't have men. Hey, can you play a video for a second? I've got someone banging on my door right now, and I don't know what's going on. Or can you no problem. Audience, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Sorry.
We'll be right back, ready, folks.
Legal action alleges the government has and continues to, on both an individual and systemic level, willfully deny and conceal the risks posed by mefloquine.
They're going to argue this is PTSD. But there are telltale signs of mefloquine toxicity PTSD does not have.
The drug may be marketed under the brand name Lyrium, but Dr. Remington Nevin, a world expert on mefloquine toxicity with Johns Hopkins University in the U.S., has another name for it.
I call it a horror movie in a pill for good reason, because the effects of this drug you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy.
So far, some 3,000 veterans have expressed an interest in joining the mass tort. 900 have already signed their names to it, accusing the very government they were prepared to die in combat for of poisoning them.
So there is government money. There's just no federal government money. Every province administers their own health care. If, like we did in Alberta, we get provinces to recognize it, get that recognized in the legislation, have it a bill passed that says, yep, this is a real thing. Now, next year, when the government has grants, etc., we can apply, create a foundation, apply for grants, use those grants then to make the study.
Right.
All right. Welcome back. Yeah.
I recognized 3 out of 4 of those boys. Yeah.
who did you
Cabana, Mike Rude, yourself. I didn't know the bearded gentleman. Is he an Alberta boy?
He's down south. He's in the U.S. His name's
Okay.
Sean Arts. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And he did some awesome work out in Alberta there, advocating for recognition of Quenism, by the healthcare system. The government of Canada doesn't recognize it, so you won't be able to get any recompense from Veterans Affairs for anything like that. But anyway, yeah, Sean has been a force to be reckoned with out there in Alberta, and he spoke on the whatever it is. It's their legislature, their provincial legislature. He spoke on the floor and everything, and gave a speech, a presentation on it. So he's done a lot of good work in getting Quenism recognized. Anyway,
so. Where do you think, V4F, you guys have a lot of plans, and where we've been on these adventures, Jeff, and I met you at the convoy. We can talk about that. I apologize. Jeff scared me when I first met him. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like a battle hardened veteran, and he's like, I want to be on. But you're not. You're much softer than I realized.
That's
you scared the pain.
That's kind of the irony. It's the funny thing is I'm a computer geek. I'm like a squishy Air Force computer geek, but I get that a lot. People,
you like resonated as like, oh my gosh, this guy is scary. And then, but then we did Rolling Thunder, and then we did, you were involved in James Top, and I was sort of at least on the periphery of the James Top stuff. And then we've done these rainbow, Save Canada rallies, and now now we've gone with Christine Anderson. You've come to those events, that we've done with Christine Anderson. And now we're entering into this new phase where we did Washington. We met a lot of contacts down in Washington and looking at how we can bridge the patriot movement between Canada and the United States. I think that was one of my missions. But where are we now going forward? And, where, you're saying it would take a lot to get you to run away to Costa Rica. So what does our future look like that we can share, and not give away top secret information? Drew will kill us both.
I'm not going to give any of Drew's top secrets out. But no, I'm just kidding. What I've been saying about this is I think we've really kind of entered this new phase now where we got to be hitting back in the lawfare space, because lawfare, it has been waged against us. And it's nice to see some of these lawsuits coming forward, there's the one in Alberta for the vaccine injured now. Eva is prosecuting that one, or she's the one, the lead lawyer on it. I think, we got to start hitting them back in that legal battle space. You've got the federal courts one too, that Blair Ector is lead lawyer on for the class action for the people who had their bank account seized because it was a Section 8 violation, according to the decision that Mosley wrote. He didn't find Section 7, as in life, liberty, and the security of the person and the right to protest and all that stuff. But what he did find was unreasonable search and seizure for the confiscation of people's bank accounts, the freezing that they did. So they're moving forward on that. And I think that everybody's got to kind of stay there, with Citizens Alliance in Nova Scotia. They're doing the judicial review on Strang's orders. We've had the orders in Alberta being declared, unlawful. So, I think that's for Canada and for restoring Canada. That's kind of where the key battle space is right now. A lot of the events, I think have been great, and we should keep doing that, but the focus should kind of shift onto the legal stuff. And as far as bridging the gap between I think North America first, let's build Fortress North America, and get ready to take refugees from Europe in a couple of decades.
Maybe not that long. Yeah, because if we don't, we will be South Africa very shortly. We will be surrounded. by very hostile enemy, and that have been trained and bred and programmed in that mass formation psychosis to come and get us. And I'm concerned about my kids. I have 5, and
Yeah,
they're
1000%.
all young, and they're all going through this. You know, they're like, Mom, you know, like there's rainbow flags at, like, they all go to different schools pretty much, and they all are littered in rainbow flags, and my son calls it, like, they have to do the white guilt announcement every morning, where they announce it on the, like, on the, not the megaphone, but, you know, on the like
PA.
school announcement PA, you know, that we acknowledge that we are an unceded Algonquin territory. And I keep on telling me, like, no, we don't. We do not acknowledge this. You know, this is not something we acknowledge. But, you know, so it's very much like a hostile environment for straight white kids to go to school in. And, you know, you don't have to spend too much time, but, you know, there's a lot of videos of these kids getting attacked in packs, and they look a lot like my kids. And this is not why my great grandfather had his arm blown off in France, you know, for the Dominion, you know, or why my grandfathers fought in the Second World War, was so that we would have an environment where their great grandchildren are here and now being treated hostilely by newcomers, right? So
I think it's probably rooted like in some Russian propaganda. It started in the 50s, right after the Second World War. They've been using the colonialist narrative for quite a while, especially like in Africa, to stoke a lot of resentment over, you know, old wounds around colonialism. But you know, every time every time a European country pulls out of a colony, it's almost guaranteed that there's going to be a civil war. You know, like in Somalia, for example. But and the thing is that I think the Chinese have picked up on it since then, and so they're really advancing this idea around evil finding its roots in whiteness. You know, it was white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male a few years ago, and now it's all the way up to straight white cis hetero patriarch. So it's like an anti-Western psyop that's intended to demoralize generations of people, like to demoralize us all, make us give up the will to fight, and also to stoke any like racial division. You know, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. So they'll just pit us all off each other, and we'll be too busy being at each other's throats to notice what's really going on behind the scenes. And man, I mean, I know you're tracking the issue of the Chinese interference or infiltration, subversion, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I mean, that's the lens I'm always kind of putting over it. So when I think about what needs to be done, I know lawfare is one of the 5 prongs of the unrestricted warfare strategy that the Chinese generals have. So I think we got to hit them back in the lawfare space for sure.
Well, and that's what the hate speech is going to get us for. It's just going to get us in a whole bunch of lawfare, right? And it's going to, you know, bankrupt a whole bunch of people. And if the government are simply just taking taxpayer funds, well, you know, they're just throwing money at it. They're using our money to fight us, essentially. And they won't need many cases to make an example of a handful of people. But that's interesting, because when we were down south in Washington, that's Steve Bannon's lens too, right? There was a lot of talk about China going on there. And like, I noticed that what was going around again is that interview with Michael Juno Katsuya, you know, this guy who was RCMP CSIS, and he was the one who did kind of a testimony. It could have been in a committee or like a parliamentary committee. And ultimately he was saying that we have been infiltrated by China and other entities, right? It wasn't, he only named China, but your best guess is what those other entities are. And I know that there are people in our communities who have really strong views of who those entities are. But nonetheless, what they were saying is it's been happening since the 1960s. And then Mulrooney died because he does mention Mulrooney. And that's almost like when I felt in those Mulrooney years where I felt the shift happening. And, it's only
it started with the Mulrooney government, right?
Yeah, it could have gone back a little bit further, but that's probably when it was game on. And then, we went through the Chrétien years, those were long. And even Harper, shark eyes, everyone loves Harper, nostalgic for Harper after, 8 years of Trudeau. But he too still spoke at the World Economic Forum. He too, is sold Canada off for parts. That's what I'm seeing happening now. The West is being sold off to China, and sort of that Brampton area, Ontario, is now getting sold off to New Delhi. And so it's a way of kind of breaking up our country. And I've seen videos where the United Nations are basically going to buy the rest. So unless, sort of the old stock of Canada actually make some kind of stand and hold the line, then if we're not defending this land and holding, well, then they're going to take it because it's rich and there's a lot of diamonds in those hills, and they're going to take them all because we're not defending it. We're going, oh, I'm watching hockey. They're too busy watching sports ball, as they say, to be paying attention to their country kind of slipping through their fingers. And it will be gone by the time it gets blatantly obvious, I think.
I am Digital Soldier saying Canada will never become communist. The US won't allow it to fall. I certainly hope you're right, but I don't think they're coming to save us. They got problems of their own. That could be a little further down the road than we realize. But there have been a couple of people who have gone down south and addressed the U.S. Congress a couple of times. Rupert Sempermanio there a few years ago, and few months ago. And more recently, Randy Hillier gave a really powerful statement there for the U.S. Politicians, and so they're really sitting up and taking notice. And Tucker Carlson's talking about it. Joe Rogan's talking about it.
Yeah, thank God for Joe. Joe mentions us a lot, right? And I wasn't sure about the whole Tucker Carlson thing, but I actually do believe that he came in and he did do some good. There are people who argue that, he took $1 million while he came through kind of from this country and then bolted. But I do think that when you're dealing with an authoritarian regime such as we're dealing with, it's public humiliation is their Achilles heel. And so that's right, brother. That's when you're humiliating him. Tucker Carlson was humiliating him. That hits them deep. Like little potato really gets hurt when you humiliate him. When we were down south, Drew did have this kind of conversation with a lot of different politicians that he met and that he was able to speak to. But he would say that, you're going to have Venezuela to the north if you guys don't start paying attention. And we got everything from the feedback to like, oh, really? Like, tell us more. How bad is it? Because they weren't really conscientious of how bad it is. And others, I won't name, but, conservative senators, GOP senators who were like, well, we're not here to rescue you. Like, you guys have to save yourselves. And I'm like, we're really looking for a rescue, more just looking for an alliance. But thanks for that. I got your number. That was, again, another person who had the dead eyes and fake smiles, so I'm like, that's the office we're not going to be calling because this person does not have Canada's interests in heart at all. So
and that's kind of what I mean too. I think, they got problems of their own. And I don't think we can count on them coming to save us. That would probably be more contentious than we'd like to think.
We are an existential threat. Right? Unless they are now starting to feel like, okay, the Chinese have installed troops at the border. We are now a problem. then they will pay attention. But we will be the people going, hey, we were trying to warn you with our flares and our microphones, going like, there's a problem up here, guys. You should probably look up here because they're coming. But all the attention is being taken to the southern border right now, and that's where all their focus is.
Yeah, that was something we talked about a lot with them while we were down there too. It's like the fact that everybody's focused on the southern border, but it may be the case that you have an even greater threat, a more concentrated one on your northern border, just given the level of CCP infiltration. And I saw you were posting about this. This is actually government.exe is corrupt, but this was the one.
Yes, the Katsuya guy.
Yeah. And
it's not only this current government that is at fault. All previous governments were also ignoring what we were saying.
So, Michelle, as you said, you've been raising these flags of interference for years. Why do you think it has taken so long for all of this to come out publicly?
I think there is two reasons. One of the reasons is that there was an element of partisanry. There was an element that could be useful to the government in power, or the people who wanted to get in power or stay in power, and they saw useful to simply keep a certain statu quo. The other element is definitely we have evidence that we have been infiltrated by agent of influence, people working on behalf of the Chinese intelligence service, not necessarily spy, but people who have been recruited and being capable to influence the power at bay. So this has been going on for the last 40 years, from Mr. Mulroney all the way to Mr. Trudeau today. Every prime minister has been compromised at one point or another by those agents of influence.
Every prime minister.
Yeah, so they have a really big head start on us, I think.
My gosh, he's telling us. Now that guy's in Rimouski. How do we get him on your show? Like, that's the brain we want to pick, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we flew all the way to Europe to get Christine Anderson. Let's take a flight to Rimouski and start going door to door. It's got to be a pretty small town. How's your French? We're gonna have.
C'est pas le pire.
C'est pas pire. Okay, on va demander. Yeah, no, I think that he was like that. Those were some major intelligence bombs, and that changed how I looked at things. Once I saw that, because I think that video I saw over a year ago, but that was really shocking to me and telling me that we are in a lot deeper trouble than we realize. And it's not just China, but who else? Like, name them. I want him to tell us, like, who else, has, it's a little bit of these guys, a little bit of those guys. I think we are in bigger trouble than we realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably the most prominent one, is the CCP interference and the most thoroughgoing. But like you say, like, authoritarians are on the move broadly. And I think we have an issue with maybe the jihadis as well. Speaking of jihadis, here's Icky Khalid, and this is giving us the window into, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And this is the window, I think, into just how thoroughgoing the CCP interference is, because this is the committee where they're looking into the Winnipeg lab leak scandal there. Now, we're 4 years after the fact. What was it, 2019? They got frog marched out of there. Right. And they're already living back in China now, so it's not like we can go out and arrest them. But here's Icky, and this is the committee looking into that right now.
For that reason, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Point of order. Mr. Chair, I request a recorded vote on this.
Yes,
thank you.
That's fine, Mr. Chong.
Point of order.
It's
point
not,
of order, Mr. Chair.
On a point of order, it's not debatable what Ms. Khalid just...
I just want clarification to the effect of what Ms. Khalid has moved is to shut down debate.
I'm so sorry, Chair, but no, I refuse to let
that's debate, Mr.
this 106.4 to become political gander for
Ms. Khalid. I've already addressed that with Mr. Cooper, and for those who are watching at home, this is a dilatory motion to stop the meeting before a decision is rendered. So I am going to ask the clerk. It is non-debatable. Mr. Chong has asked for recorded division. And I'm going to ask the clerk.
Sorry, Chair. It sounds like you're debating a little bit there.
No, I'm explaining. I'm explaining, Ms. Khalid.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. I'm explaining exactly what's going on here, and that there's no further debate, that you've asked that this meeting be adjourned without a decision of the committee being made. I'm explaining.
Because this is not the mandate of the committee, Chair.
Oh.
That's your opinion. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
The vote is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Mr. Baines.
Yes.
Trader.
Off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trader.
Mr. Sorbar.
Yes, please.
Mr. Hauswater.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
No.
Mr. Chong.
No.
Mr. Ellis.
No.
Monsieur Villemur.
Je suis contre.
Mr. Green.
Je vote pour la motion.
Yeas 6, nays 4.
So the motion to adjourn does carry by Ms. Khalid. This meeting is now adjourned.
Great stuff. What do you think, Bethan?
Traitorous bitch. I mean, I'll be taken down for hate speech for what I think about her. But, you know, she's not loyal to this country. You know, she's loyal to her party, and she's loyal to her boss, and her boss needs that this whole lab leak story be covered up. And so she went to bat for him. But that is not a patriot. That is not a Canadian, actually. And there's plenty of brown-skinned Canadians, but that's not the heart of a Canadian, because a Canadian would want to see what happened. If we are being infiltrated, that is a military-grade lab that has been infiltrated by Chinese spies, and any true patriotic Canadian would want to know what was going on here. She is a traitorous bitch. And with her bad makeup, she's ugly too. And I think we're going to have to harass her, make fun of her. I think, yeah, she's going on our hit list. Absolutely. We make fun of Chrystia Freeland. Guess what, Curly? You're next.
Yeah. She's she started out with the M103 motion to condemn Islamophobia, and everybody's like, this doesn't look good for free speech. But now she's rounding it out with this. Like, I don't think she was ever really working for us. She's one of those authoritarians. I mean, she was in, I can't remember the name of the student group she was in when she was at university, but was affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood.
Right. Yeah. No, she's like Omar. Not Omar Cotter. He's obviously a traitor too, but Omar Abracadabra. You know, he was also with the Muslim Brotherhood. You know, he's all pro Sharia law, you know, with his little Kermit voice. And so, yeah, we're being infiltrated by New Delhi, by China, and by the Muslim Brotherhood. Like, guys, do we want to handle this? Do we want to face it head on, or are we going to, you know, continue watching, you know, the playoffs, you know, because that's what it's coming down to. And I understand why, you know, there are people who are so furiously angry by the passivity of the public, you know, and we don't actually need to be 30% of the population that revolts. It's actually, we only need to be a well-coordinated 3%. And, you know, we can have her fired. We can have her dealt with. We can have that entire, you know, as Jeremy says, it'll be all over tomorrow. You know, if we could coordinate our pathetic infighting butts, you know, because everyone's like, oh, he's a Fed, she's a Fed, like, you know, Jeff's a Fed, Bethan's a Fed. Oh my gosh. Like, I've been accused of all sorts of crazy stuff. And I'm like, you know.
Antifa.
Are you being called Antifa? Nice.
Yeah. Somebody accused me of being Antifa. I was like, okay,
well,
whatever.
You can't accuse us of having dual citizenships. And I don't have a loyalty to another country. And like, that's for sure. With all 338, I want them all fired. They're all terrible. They're all like, you know, none of them defended us when it mattered. And so, you know, they're raising the carbon tax on us and giving themselves all a raise. Nobody's going, I'm not taking the raise. No, they're all taking the raise. And, you know, like what I do is really hard work. You know, people criticize me, and But it's spitting in our faces. I know people who are losing their homes right now. They're being taxed to death. They're being taxed into communism. And if your taxes get into arrears, oh boy, here come the fees and the fines and the this. And it just just compounds on top of people. Like, people's lives are being ruined right now, destroyed. They're losing their homes. The banks are taking them. And we have this government going, I think we should give ourselves a 4% raise because we work hard. And I'm like, they drink hard. I'll promise you that. I'm even going to tell you about the politicians I've met, out in the world with a couple in them, but yeah. There was one or two down in Washington, a couple of Canadians that asked me not to post their identity, but they're in the sauce. That's for sure. So, it's true.
They drank more than the Americans during COVID.
Yeah, we did. We drank hard. Yeah. But, nobody's sober, right? That was the other thing that was so impressive about the veterans when they came down to Washington, and it was noted by people at CPAC, was that all of you veterans stayed sober. Drew, yourself, the lawyer, you guys kind of presented yourself with your Maple MAGA hats, but you guys were all sober, and there was a lot of drinking going on for sure. And that was a difference maker. It left an impression, because other people were falling over, stumbling. The Romanians brought this alcohol, and it was just pure lighter fluid, and they're like, try this. And it's like, and then you're going straight to the hospital.
Yeah, it smelled burny.
Yeah, no, they called it an antidote to communism. You drink this drink, and then you'll definitely fight communism forever. And I'm fine with sending it out to all 40 million Canadians right now, because we sure need to drink it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really social environment. I mean, and there were a ton of awesome people down there too. There was a lot of shared concerns, I guess, too, between the Americans and Canadians. We didn't really have any trouble striking up a dialogue, because I think everybody's worried about one of the points that we kept making to them is we said we actually have higher per capita immigration in Canada than you guys do in the US. And I think that kind of perked their ears up quite a bit, because again, we were trying to alert them mostly to the security threat that's on their northern border. And by and large, they're pretty asleep to it, because, like you said, everybody's focused on the southern border. But yeah, that was one point in particular that I think really kind of perked their ears up too, is the fact that our immigration is actually greater than theirs on a per capita scale. So we're taking in more than anybody, like all of the other Western nations and everything. We have the highest. So and they seem to be importing this new voter base. That's been the strategy that's been imported from the United States to Canada. That's something that Nazi Pelosi really pioneered down in the United States there, or at least took it to a new level. But we had that by-election yesterday.
Yeah,
and
that's
you know what? Not bad. And out there in Durham, guys. I'm looking at the what do you call it? There's a conservative coming in 18,000 to the Liberal 7. So not bad at all. That's a huge margin between the two candidates. So
huge. But our voter turnout is pathetic. 28%, of people who could vote did vote. And if that could be laziness, or that could be, apathy, that is the concern, is that a quarter of the population are determining the future of Durham, because they went and they voted.
That's a good point.
That's out of 150,000. So what, 30,000 people determined the direction of Durham. I think it's funny that there's a rhinoceros party. That kind of cracks me up. You guys still vote? Yeah, no, man, 62. You guys are doing all right. But that's okay, I'm throwing my vote out, and that's what we're doing. Yeah.
But
So
they also got the PPC. They're beating the
yeah,
Green
I love
Party by.
Patricia. She's a great lady. She's a really
Oh
nice
yeah,
lady.
she was
She's super
really
fit.
good.
Yeah, and she
At
like,
the-
likes to go. I did an interview with her once and she was like, I just came back from a bike ride. I think she like just biked for 40K. She was still kind of sweating. Yeah, no, she's a go-getter, and I think she's a good person. I'm wondering, because it was a by-election, I'd be interested to take this as a microcosm of the macrocosm and to see, did they use Dominion voting machines? Were they all paper ballots? Were they all counted with scrutineers? Like, I would love to hear some follow-up. I'm not saying Jamil didn't win. I'm sure he did, but he had a strong sort of PR campaign and he has conservative dollars behind him. So I saw him a lot online in my news feed. So, they're paying for that. But just want to make sure that, was the election run according to the scrutineers as it should have been? Did anything happen behind closed doors? Did they use Dominion voting machines or some kind of George Soros software? It would just be good to know, because it's just a small election, but we can sort of get an idea so that when bigger elections come, I heard that there were busloads of Chinese that showed up. Was that actually true? Did that actually happen? Because we're going to have a problem with that, like Han-Dong voting system, right? Where all these Chinese ladies have his name written on their arm and they're brought around busload by busload. And it's only a few ridings that are actually going to flip the whole thing when we have a first past the post system. So they already know which ridings are the ones that they will need to target in order to flip it either way in their favor or not. And we should be like hawks on those ridings.
Yeah, I don't think now that this would have been an Elections Canada run election, and they don't use Dominion for that. That's all paper ballots, but they do in the like the leadership races for the political parties and municipalities and probably a few provinces as well. But this would have been like for a federal seat, so Elections Canada, and I think that's still paper ballots for now. But they're talking about expanding the voting period for the next federal election to 3 days instead of 1, and setting it up for all the mail-in stuff, just like they did with the 2020 election in the United States. So we see a lot of this monkey see, monkey do between the authoritarians in Canada and the United States. So it seems like that's the direction they're going in. But even with like the interference, we still got a pretty good margin there when you add it up to kind of the difference here. So it didn't work in their favor, and it looks like even if it's only 27.87%, maybe the motivated voters are voting in the right direction. I'm not real big. I'm not a conservative, by the way. I'd rather see it be PPC myself, but at least people are getting away from the left.
I suppose I would take Jamil over, the Green Party any day. I still think that we are dealing with, no matter whether you're dealing with the blue team, the red team, or the orange team, or the green team, they're all captured entities. And that's why we need to speak to Michel Junot about that. You're still dealing with Pierre Poilievre, who's talking about Agenda 2030. He's still talking about carbon capture like it's a real thing. And, he's still a little too on, the trans agenda side, right? Even though he's trying to back away a little bit with some coaching behind the scenes, but it's not the kind of stand that we are looking for, that someone like Bernier is actually taking a hard stand on mass immigration. We cannot sustain this speed, these numbers, these demographic shifts. I agree. This is not the country that it was even in 2014. And it's definitely becoming a hostile country towards our children, and they have nowhere else to go. So, if I get called a Nazi and that kind of thing, but like, you call me a Nazi, and meanwhile, a dual citizen just stopped a very important investigation into a lab leak in our country. Like, who's the patriot here? Who's the problem here? You know, but of course she's, you know, gets her fancy $250,000 a year salary, and I get labeled a Nazi. But she's destroying our country by those kinds of motions to, you know, not investigate. Like, you're a traitorous bitch. And you know, I do believe that a time will come for us where justice will be served, and you know, I'm gonna come for her personally, and I'm coming for Freeland. Oh man, I'm coming for Freeland.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, you know, like, we've got a AAA rating. It's like, meanwhile, like, tent cities outside, all 338. That's right. You know, like, tent cities, areas, there's never been tent cities. I cannot believe it. It's Mogadishu in certain areas, just garbage and broken tents and like shopping carts. And it's, oh my gosh, this never
Canadian
existed.
refugees.
Yeah. You know, and it's a mixed bag, right? You know, it's the homeless mixed in with refugees, mixed in with everything. I'm like, this is a colossal nightmare. And we're sending more money to Haiti when we got a Haiti situation like 911 in Ottawa and Hull. Come on. We can't even clean up our own backyard. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that you did like the right compare and contrast there too, because I'm always pointing this out when anybody asks her about the tent cities, her answer is always, we have a AAA credit rating.
Like, F off, man. Just shut up. You know,
the two of them have nothing to do with one another.
They're so contemptible. And you know, when okay, so you know, the lawyer who, when the court case came through with the federal courts that said the Emergencies Act was not justified. Just seeing her go up to the microphone, and she's like super twitchy, and she's always like putting her hair like this, and you know, like doing this, and she's like, you know, we don't agree, and like, just seeing the way she handled things, like the way she laughed at us when she froze Bulford's bank accounts, and the amount, like, she's so, those running shoes she wears, her Converse with dresses, and like, she deserves every bit of hate that the boys throw at her and call her ham legs and stuff. I'm like, just throw the misogyny her way, like, whatever sticks. But that woman is another traitor. She is loyal to Ukraine. She is loyal to her ancestry. She is not loyal to this country. And I mean, the fact that we have her, that, you know, Russia has been treating her like a hostile spy for decades now, and you have Jagmeet, who can't go into the United States, can't go to India because he too is treated like an agent and a spy. It's like, Monsieur Juno Katsuma, can you tell us something about this? Like, how is it that these high-ranking members in the government are not permitted entry into allied countries? Like, what is going on? And she's a parasite. That's right, Breezy. So I'm like, I don't know how we're going to win this, guys. All I know is we just have to keep shaking the cage and keep doing the F you make me kind of attitude. Oh, you think so? Oh, you're going to censor me? You think so? Oh, really? Like, and showing up in small things. Like, this is a difference maker. You know, the Ottawa District School Board, right? It was run by like a lunatic. There was a lunatic running that asylum, right? And there were some allies within the school board trustee, but the fact that we showed up with our bandanas, our flags, our free, like, Save Canada t-shirts, and we showed up, and then they started panicking, and they're like, oh my God, we're going to have to let you one at a time. And but we saw that we were making a difference, you know, at these schools, showing up where they're saying we're taking the stall doors off because we're going to make them unisex bathrooms. And it's like, oh, we'll just show up at the school. And then all of a sudden the bathroom doors go right back up again. So it's showing up on a municipal level and a provincial level. And you only need like 30 of you. Not even, but if you have a gang of 30, and I know that there's communities out there who have a lot more than 30, and you all show up at the meeting, honk, honk, they start freaking out and panicking, and we're having an impact on those policy decisions. So I know the federal government acts like they're untouchable, but we are making a difference on those smaller base levels, and we are scaring them, and they know they have to contend with us, and that frightens them very deeply. So it's like, keep going. Like, it's that daycare situation that kicked a family out because they objected to tranny literature. It's like, we need to show up at the daycare and freak them out. And then the police show up, and it's like, yeah, but like, we're going to change the policy. Sometimes you need to show up more than once, but just the thought that the Nazis are coming, they're already like hysterical, right? So, and we know we're not. We're the nicest Nazis you'll ever meet. Like,
yeah. And
like,
it really is like way down to the local level too. Like a lot of this, I don't know, communist activity really is all the way down to the municipal level. And I mean, even municipalities are I was just reading in the Mosaic Effect, how the Chinese Communist Party started a hybrid war in America's backyard. And of course, we're America's backyard. And they're talking about all these different community groups. And, it's a municipal level, it's a provincial level, it's all levels of government, it's the community groups that they're interfering with somehow, influencing somehow. I mean, we're getting involved at that level. I think like localism beats globalism. It's going to take a kind of like a lot of people, a lot of effort. And I like that you say, like, you got to show up. There are people out there that this stuff is coming right down into their lives. And that's happening definitely at the local level. And here I was seeing you're tracking a lot of the same issues I am here. And
right, Diego.
this is, yeah, Diego. So this was a guy, well, as Tamara Leach is pointing out, says, my good friend Diego attended a small children's daycare kindergarten yesterday to discuss a valid concern he and his wife had over a book. And now both kids have been expelled. So,
and the parents aren't allowed onto the property, saying that, like, Diego, who's like, he's not a giant threatening man. This isn't Pat King here. And they're like, banned from the property. He's like, this is the kind of immigrants we want. Like, he's nice, great guy.
Yeah. And it's he was sharing out too that this was all about this book here, Constellations. And he's got the write-up, the link to it. And apparently it's it's another one of these ones where they're pushing the trans agenda in schools, and this is all the way down to a daycare now.
Yeah, at daycare level. And it's like the big bad wolf tells the little girl or the little boy, it's literally the big bad wolf is the one who's like, you don't have to listen to Mama Bear and Papa Bear. If you want to dress as a girl or if you want to dress as a boy, you can. Like it's literally the predator in, grandma's outfit telling the child you don't have to talk to your parents. Unfriggin' believable.
Yeah, it's amazing how blissfully self-oblivious a lot of these people are.
Right.
That's the predatory behavior going on in the schools, the grooming, basically. We'll just keep this between us and don't tell your mom and dad about this conversation. And, the media going after New Brunswick for actually making it a requirement for teachers to discuss with parents gender transitioning, the social transition in school. It's just incredible. The whole thing is so underhanded. And this one is a story about, I think the son of the three bears wants to dress up as Goldilocks. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And the big bad wolf is telling him it's a good idea. Don't talk to your parents. Like, it's unfriggin' believable. And, and they're just parents who are just like, yeah, if you don't mind, like, I'd prefer if you didn't indoctrinate my kids. And, they are new. They are from Colombia. They speak English and French perfectly. And they are very sweet and kind people with little bambinos. And they were also federal workers who were fired after the mandates. I met Diego at the convoy, and he showed up every single day. Like, these are patriots. They are not dual citizen traitors. And you know, and then what they were treated like by the daycare providers going, well, you're not from this country. And so in Canada, what we do is we are pushing the trans agenda, you know, and so they were so condescending. All the things that they accuse us of being like white supremacists and all this, all the things that we're accused of was how this daycare was treating this family. And I'm like, well, come to the white supremacist team because we're going to help you out. And so I'm like, well, let's go on blast, you know, because these are good people with little kids that they have every right to protect from this psychotic trans agenda indoctrination. You know,
yeah, absolutely. Well said. I mean, like, where are they even going with that right now? Is this how do you resolve this? Are they just kicked out of the daycare and now they got to go somewhere else because they're not welcome there anymore, or what?
exactly. And as you know, like with hospitals, daycares, like daycares are hard to find and you have to go on a list and you have to start all at the bottom again. And these two people did lose their jobs with the federal government for being non-compliant. So they've both found two other jobs. They don't have family here in Canada. And so they can't, like in a traditional Colombian household, well, grandma would have it, right? Or the aunties would be able to take care of that. No, they're just an isolated couple here in Canada, in Quebec. And so now they're down to one income because one of them goes to work and the other stays with the bambino and then the other can go to work. So it completely destroys their ability to provide for their family. And rent is out of control and gas prices are out of control. Everything's out of control. And you know, we've been here all our lives and our lives are coming undone. They just kind of got here, you know, within the past, 5 years or so. And, like, how is their world hasn't even gotten started and it's already coming apart. Like, they would have had less communism in Colombia and better temperatures and better food, probably. It's like, I don't blame them if they want to leave this shithole. Like, I get it. It's awful here.
A lot of them appear to be doing that. It's a growing trend. New immigrants to Canada are finding that they hate it here and looking to go home. I saw some reporting on that there recently. Localism beats globalism, and we can see that they're coming after us on the local level. So I think we got to be hitting back there as well. What do you see on the horizon there? We talked about your two events that you got coming up later this month. But what are you seeing as the way forward and the way through this there?
Well, I'm always looking to you guys, actually. I'm like, okay, guys, what are you saying? So I would say that food sustainability, again, us being able to organize in forward operating groups, where, you're growing the chickens and you're growing the vegetables, and, people need to look into these hydroponic options, and like, we need to start getting creative because not everybody's environment's going to be the same, but started breaking that food sustainability chain, so that we're more dependent. And it's not a joke about like getting to know your farmers. Get to know your beef farmers and your hog farmers. And the situation that farmers are in is quite desperate. I always feel like we're on the verge of victory, and it's just like we're just adding weight to the scale, like one sort of gram at a time. And at some point it's going to turn and flip, but we just have to keep. It's that meme, right, of the guy digging and there's diamonds on the other side of the wall and he quits like sort of an inch before he gets through. And so it's like, we can't quit because we're so close to flipping this thing. But we don't need to, even though we are probably 30% of the population, the unvaccinated, and then we have the angry double vaccinated. That's we got to have 40% of the population, people who are double vaxxed and pissed, plus the unvaxxed who know what's going on. That's a significant portion of the population. That is a significant voting block, and we don't even need that many. We can do it on 10% that are well organized, and we boycott things. We show up in when they're putting terrible motions forward, terrible mandates, Agenda 2030 stuff, we show up with our flags and our horns and all our fringe, and we do spread That's our own version of patriotic terrorism that we spread, right? And so we have to show up to our school board meetings. We have to show up to our municipal council meetings because, you know, the Chinese are trying to penetrate that municipal level as well now. They've already captured the feds. They're already gone. Provinces are mostly captured as well. And it's the municipalities. That's kind of the frontier that we have to hold. So we need to keep showing up for that kind of thing. They don't like it when we bombard their offices with letters. They don't like it. They feel very uncomfortable. They feel very uncomfortable that the Wellington regulars are still sitting there. And I know that people mock them and ridicule them. But, you know, Dacey's caught some of the most amazing footage of Freeland and Trudeau and Algabra and all because he's on the ready. And those Wellington regulars, like, they are hardcore patriots too. And they've been through a lot over the past 2 years. And I don't mock them and I don't ridicule them at all because I do feel like they're just standing there with their flag planted and going, we're not moving. And so I honor them for that, even though it might not be a military strategic move of the best thing that we can do to move the chessboard pieces. Like, there's something I find very honorable about their loyalty and devotion and steadfastness in the cold, in the rain, in the sleet, and they're still standing there. I really, I have nothing bad to say about those people. And I don't know, there's other organizations that are starting to get a move on, and I'm pretty impressed with what some people are up to. So, we need more strategy for the lawfare. I definitely think we need a centralized, trustworthy money manager where it's like, and we can start triaging all of these legal cases because some people's legal money is going into their own pockets. Some people are dealing with shyster lawyers. Like, we need sort of a centralized, organized way of going, okay, you know, this is for Pat King's case. This is for Barbara's case. This is for Joe Bloggins that nobody ever heard of case. This is Kayla Pollock's case. And we start hammering off these cases one by one. And we're winning a whole bunch of them, but to pool our resources with a trustworthy money manager, because there have been scammers out there who have taken money for lawfare, and it's gone to vacations and into new trucks and all that kind of stuff. So somewhere where we can actually have our own centralized bank for handling the lawfare that they're trying to destroy us with. And everybody fills out their form and applies, and so
parallel economy. We got to build it.
Economy. That's right. Yeah. Find your friends. Find your friends. And, you know, I have more friends now than I've ever had in my life. Even though my past life friends many turned their backs on me. I've got like loyal friends now where, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for Bikers Church. I'm so grateful for Vets for Freedom. I'm so grateful for Diagolon. I am so great in all their faults. Like, Diagolon's faulted, believe it or not. You know, Vets for Freedom's faulted. Then NCI was faulted. You know, Freedom Fighters Canada or Trinity Productions were faulted. But we're standing and we're still here, and we've taken lots of black eyes, but we're still here. And the only way for us to figure out what the right thing to do is by determining what's wrong, you know, and we can't figure that out without like talking about it. So, you know, keep talking, keep shooting off your mouth, keep pushing things too far. That is the only way. And we will storm the gates and we will storm the castle, you know. Trudeau is Marie Antoinette and going, let them eat cake. Well, Marie Antoinette had to pack up her shit and run because pitchforks and torches were showing up. We could always show up at Harrington Lake. I'm surprised. Let me plant this seed into the freedom movement right now. Harrington Lake is this beautiful lake in Chelsea, Quebec. And you know how horns really travel over water? You don't even have to get that close to the house. And you could blast them all day long.
I like the way you think.
Would be really mad with Trudeau, wouldn't they? Yeah. So let's plant a seed there. Maybe Harrington Lake needs some sound disturbances. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
like the way
saying.
you think.
Just
And
saying.
we got to keep up that pressure, right?
Yeah.
Might have to get a little bit more creative, but well, I think this about sums up our situation right now. There's Bethan, and she says, Freedom Fighters Canada stand with the Freedom Fighters of China. We face the same enemies. If everyone in China stands up, this will be all over. And you know what? I think that's true. If everybody in China rose up, like, we're seeing in this video here, this wasn't that long ago.
These guys
So
are
yeah,
well
should probably
trained,
do it.
They're well trained activists. Like we need them to come over and train us how to do that. Like what these
Wow.
guys do, they're hardcore.
This is
Yeah.
from November. Well, you put this up on November 2022, but quite the. Yeah, so they're using the police metal barriers there to beat them with them and everything, and massive crowd. I remember reporting on it at the time. Yeah, and you want to talk about signs of hope? It seems like there's a lot of unrest over in China, and maybe they'll just fall apart. Sooner rather than later. I don't think they're going to last more than a couple of decades, no matter what. Just by sheer demography, by the changing demographics, one-child policy is going to catch up with them real soon. So,
that's what I've been told. They're facing a population collapse. But again, they've got a whole media machine speaking on their behalf. You'd never know. You'd never know that they were on the verge of collapse and destruction. The way they project themselves, it sounds like they're going to be guns a-blazing for the next 500 years and they're going to take us over. But I would say, despite the labels, all the things they call us, it's like, patriots, hold that friggin' line. Each community is unique and distinct and has special needs of its own. And so it's like, organize around that, about where you are. And that will somehow create a chain across this nation. And be prepared. I heard a spy say once, that, have some cash in small bills, because if the financial system does collapse, as somebody's mentioned in the chat, the dollar value will go up exponentially. So your loonies, your toonies, your quarters, and your $5 bills are actually going to be worth a whole hell of a lot more than they're worth now. Like, not that we're all walking around with stacks of 20s, but you don't want to have your emergency money in stacks of 20s. You want to actually have it in stacks of 5s. And if there's a collapse, we're going to be using cash for a little bit. Have small bills. And that's almost easier thing to save psychologically and all that stuff. Don't have hundreds, don't have 50s, don't have 20s, because you'll trade it and it'll be gone. No one's giving you change. No one is giving you change. So just be a little bit prepared. Anita's like, I only brought my big bills. Okay, take it to a bank, Anita, or go to Winners, buy yourself something nice and keep the change and put it in, and put it in your safe. But have small bills, because when things go sideways, your loony jar is going to count.
Probably wouldn't hurt to have some non-perishable foods around too. I bet you that'd be something people would be willing to trade in at some point.
Oh yeah, I got some rice. And then you got to talk about like protecting your home from marauders, and that's why community is going to be so important. And that's like, that's when we're talking about more of a doomer version, but it could get bumpy, right? So we have to be prepared for that as well. But I think those are going to be crazier times. CB radios. I know a lot of people have been working on that. Like there's like a CB radio community. It's a Telegram group, and they're basically have a link across the nation now on the same channel. And so that those connections nationwide have already been made. It's such a huge country. I remember in 2020, they had pockets that weren't like covered, and I actually think that they have all of it covered now. So we would be actually via CB able to communicate across the nation at this point. Like major nerd groups on Telegram about CB radios. And I'm not nerdy enough, like I be like check over, but
Yeah. Ham's pretty big too. So
Yeah, ham is big. You need a license, but when everything goes sideways, just know how to operate the friggin' thing, right? Forget your license. Yeah.
Yeah. The CRTC will be the first to go. So
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
all the things. Have your crossbows and machetes ready, guys.
Yeah, 1000%.
Yeah.
Be ready for it. But I think we're stacking up a few wins, and hopefully things are kind of turning in the right direction. I think it's going to get bumpy by the end of the year, though. We got that American election coming up in November. I just can't see like things not shaken up in a big way
Right?
leading up to
How
that.
many
Yeah.
people told you that they don't think the American election is going to happen? It like many times in that hotel lobby, they're like, yeah, the election's not going to happen. Yeah, no, there's going to be no election. It's kind of a doomer perspective. I heard it more than once from people who
me too.
consider themselves in those circles, right? Yeesh.
Yeah.
They don't want Trump to win. Yes,
I heard it
satellite.
too, but at least they have fixed election dates by law. Like it has to happen by law. Whereas ours is just kind of like whenever the guy in charge wants to do it. And Trump just got that win in the Supreme Court, unanimous, right?
Yeah.
9-0. Said, yeah, he's going to be on the ballot there, Colorado. So
Maple
that's
MAGA.
another-
Trump
Yeah,
is like, doing the little Trump dance.
Yeah.
Just-
Now there's a fighter. That guy, holy smokes, the resiliency on him, unbelievable. So
and he's so funny. Like,
Yeah.
we were waiting and like for him to speak. How many hours did we wait? Like we were like, oh my gosh, we were stuck in that room with all these Trump fans, like everybody dressed in Americana, like stripes and stars and all that kind of stuff. But and he came out and he did the traditional like hugging the flagpole, that sort of iconic shot, and does his thing. But he's so funny, he's just making fun. He's so great. He's just an incredible, like that was like seeing a show, right? And he is iconic. No matter what happens, we can say we were there. We saw the legend, the man, the myth, the legend. I met Dan Scavino too. While his that's all part of the Q world. It's like, oh, Dan Scavino posted blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, hey, Dan Scavino, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And he's like, I just need to get this shot, and I'm like, okay, bye. But he's as famous as Trump is in those circles, right?
Trump is polling higher amongst Canadians than Trudeau is right now. So
Maple MAGA.
That's another sign of hope.
You guys, we're gonna have a whole Maple MAGA line. We're gonna some people are gonna cover their cars in Maple MAGA. Yeah, because it's it obviously irritates the rainbow people deeply, and so we will do it for their irritation. That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as we keep up that irritation long enough, this dam, I think, is going to break at some point. So, what else are we going to do, right?
From your lips to God, just keep on pushing, guys, because they never planned that we were going to resist like this. They never planned, from the moment people showed up on those overpasses. They might, there's that argument that the convoy was, an actual conservative plant and whatever. Maybe it was. Maybe a couple of guys were. I don't know. But what thing they couldn't have anticipated were the tens of thousands of people who showed up on the side of the road. And I think if they were a conservative plant, they were driving going oh, shit. We're going to need a meeting when we get to Ottawa because this isn't going well. And it was, again, they were trying to nail Pat King as a white supremacist and all that kind of stuff. And it was this isn't about white supremacy, there's a lot of white people here, but that's not what this is about. This is about ending the mandates and, giving Trudeau our vote, our collective vote of non-confidence in his stewardship of this country. The convoy was 100% grassroots. I do believe that, but I was willing to consider the argument because I don't know everything. I was willing to consider the argument that maybe this was a conservative ploy, But even if it was, and I don't think it was, but even if it was, they couldn't have anticipated what we did. and what we continue to do. Like, if that was a conservative ploy, it has gone completely out of control and out of their hands. And they're like, this was the worst plan ever. Charlie, you're fired. Like, so we've created a monster. There's now this ungovernable part of the population that won't listen, won't heal, won't listen, won't take another vaccine ever again. They don't like our fake meat. They don't want anything. And, like, what have you done? So I do believe it was grassroots. And I do believe that occasionally I've met an agent, but I don't really know who they are. And I can have my suspicions, but my core friends and my core group, I just know them. I've met their parents. I know their families. I know their heartbreaks and their suffering. I know they're real. And that's all you can do, is just in your community, know who your true blues are, right? I can't know who everybody is across the country. I've met a lot of friggin' people, but I know Stacy's not.
I think that's
government agent ever. Worst, and I know Judy's not. I know Bikers Church aren't, and so that's who I can go for. I don't know, Jeff, Evely, like, at this point, we've been through enough battles together. You're a shitty government agent too. You suck. You're terrible at it.
I've been accused of that. I think we all have, though. It's
for sure.
Yeah, it's quite silly, but
I would like it
finding
to be
out who the not silly people are.
Yeah. If we're government agents, our checks are late, and I would like to get paid for all the work I've done, but there's nothing there from this. So, but yeah, just like, I know that I love the chat. Your chat room is so friggin' funny. I'm like watching the Facebook chat, and people are friggin' hilarious. And I do believe that that's why we're going to win, is because we're the funniest. We're on Team Hilarious. And so Anita's like, it's in the mail. Yeah, it is, Anita. I'm waiting. So that's how we're gonna win. We're gonna win by mocking the king and mocking, the king's henchmen, and mocking Freeland, and that's how we're gonna finish this. And we have created a family amongst our country that we never knew we had. And on a level, there are some things that are more important that we have created by all of this nightmare that I would never give up. I would never, if COVID didn't happen, if Trudeau didn't happen, I wouldn't have you. I wouldn't have these people in the chat. Like, I wouldn't have you in my life. I'd be watching fucking Dancing with the Stars. Like, going,
that is the silver lining in all this.
Ballroom, oh my gosh.
Yeah. That is the silver lining in all this. It's like we get to meet all the greatest people alive, man. It's
right,
incredible.
Right. And when we take it back, everything that has been stolen from you will be returned. And that's like biblical. And I'm a Christian. And so, I am believing that everything that was stolen from us will be returned. And that's the stand that I'm taking. So, but so much goodness has already been restored and returned to us that I wouldn't trade it. I'm happier with all of you, and what we have created here, even though it's a hot, flaming mess sometimes, and like an infighting, like, nightmare where you're just like, I think I'm going to walk away now. But I still hold in faith that we're doing the right thing, and our children, our grandchildren, great grandchildren will look back on what we've done, and they were like, they stood up for us, that's why they were doing this. And I just don't want to leave war on their doorstep. I will fight it. I'll fight it. And so that they can be free. Amen.
Yeah.
Can I get an amen? Can I get a hallelujah?
Amen. Amen in the chats. That is what it's all about too, I really think, is, campers rules. Like, we got to leave something, we leave it better than we found it. So leave something better for the next generation. And that's just not happening right now. So that is what we're really fighting for at the end of the day. It's an incredible network that's being built out there. And I'll steer you on to the website one more time, folks. It's Freedom Fighters Canada. And this is pretty incredible
send them
stuff.
To Trinity, babe. Send them to Trinity. That's where Trinity? That's where all my work is now.
Okay, you're over.
Yeah, that's where all my major events are being done now, is trinityproductions.ca. Like, that's where we're doing all our Eva, Vlaardingerbroek and Vera Sharav. I didn't even talk about the Vera Sharav stuff, and our, like, the High Queen, Christine Anderson. I didn't really do it on purpose that way, but my friend Candace made me this Canada flag. And this is a homemade. And then the Christine Anderson painting, I just finally got it framed, and I posted it for you guys. It might seem sacrilegious to some that it looks like I've placed Christine Anderson on top of Canada, but people are going to be offended no matter what. I apologize if anyone's offended.
Oh, they'll find something.
Yeah, they'll find something. But that's Christine Anderson, like, with a bobblehead, right, of Trudeau. Yeah, I can't even do it. There she goes, flicking that guy's head.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I love you, Jeff.
All right.
Thanks
Love
for
you too,
having
baby.
me. And I got I'll get some more content for you. We'll try and we'll work on that book, our adventures since the convoy. Our life is feds that don't get paid. Hey, you think if anybody knows Michelle Juno Katsuya and they live in Rimouski, can you call us? We want to talk to Mr. Juno. I think he knows things that we need to know. So if anybody has his phone number out there, call us. We want to talk to him.
Accounting of this. Yep.
Yeah.
1000%.
Love you all in the chat. You guys are friggin' hilarious. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are the best.
Go to the Veterans for Freedom website there, folks. You can subscribe to our newsletter by clicking subscribe here. Join if you're a veteran by clicking join here, and support by clicking support here. Donate to us directly to help our operational costs, or hit the support button to donate to the support fund. And this goes to Canadians who are suffering under this tyranny. Last month's donations went to Kayla Pollock, quite naturally, and we have a GoFundMe set up for her as well. So feel free to donate generously to that. And you've got your support fund buttons here that you can set up with your credit card for a monthly donation. E-transfer, if you'd rather do that, to veterans number 4 freedom.ca with the auto deposit enabled. But if you're not able to do that, then please use the password fund for freedom, all caps fund number 4, all caps freedom, and we'll make sure that gets off to a worthy cause. And that brings us all the way back to based Brian Mulrooney, who said Ottawa is a sick city that runs in goddamn incest. They're all married to one another. They're all shacked up with one another. Their wives are on the payroll of the CBC. It's just awful. Okay. So I think that's a good reflection to end things on. Bethan, thanks so much.
Come see me on Friday in Toronto. Thanks for sharing that, guys. Happy International Women's Bathrooms Are Being Invaded by Men's Day. So
well said. And and to everybody who tuned in, stay frosty and stay safe.
Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs.